Hello, friends. I figured I would go ahead and take this time to share with you my near death experience. Yes, I have had a near death experience, but I really don't particularly like telling the story. Um, Near death experiences have been my favorite thing to research since, about 2011. And the deeper I dove into looking at and listening to this literature, the more I became fascinated with it and learning so many stories of the other side kind of made me really get even tireder of this life than I already was, And I was spiraling downhill further and further and further to the point where I was starting to get really suicidal. And the more you hear these stories of the beautiful light and the unconditional love and the big download of information and all that stuff, the more I would get like really intrigued, like, man, what am I doing here then? You know, like, I don't want to be here if that's what it's like. What am I doing here? So one thing led to another. I had just left my wife at the time, and like my life was just falling apart and falling apart and falling apart. And I started planning, and I thought, well, I don't have a gun. I don't really have access to an abundance of medications that could do the trick for me. So the only thing I can do is hang myself with a belt. I had a friend come stay with me for about a week while I was suspended from work for showing up intoxicated. And back up just a little bit. The house that I was living in at the time, like maybe 2 months before I moved in there, the lady that lived there before me died in the living room. And this friend came over and I told her about this. She wasn't even really like a friend. I had just met her. Like she was somebody that I kind of started talking to on Facebook and then just brought over to my house, to party with me while I was at home and had nothing to do but sit around and drink all day. And I told her about this, and this lady knew nothing about me, didn't know what my interests were, didn't know what I was into. She said, "Oh, somebody died in here? You want to talk to her?" And I went, "What do you mean talk to her? What are you talking about?" At this point in time in my life, I knew nothing about anything metaphysical or witchcraft or anything. I was completely, this was all like speaking Chinese to me. I knew nothing about it at the time. She said, "I can talk to dead people through Ouija boards." And this is where it gets really hard for me to tell the story because, like, I swear to you, this sounds so stupid, and it kind of embarrasses me telling you the story, but this is what happened. I was like, "What, a Ouija board? What are you talking about? Where are we going to get a Ouija board?" She said, "I'll make one." So she ripped a pizza box in half and took a permanent marker and made this pizza box a Ouija board and used a beer bottle cap for the little thing. You know what I mean? That, whatever that thing is. So we start playing around with this thing, and she's asking it questions, and she has her hands on it and she's moving it like crazy. And to me, I thought that very obviously she was moving this thing. And I'm like, this is so stupid. This is so dumb. What are we doing here? Like I said, I didn't know her. She didn't know me. So I didn't really know exactly what to say or how to respond to this. But I'm sitting here thinking, this is the stupidest thing that I have ever been a part of. How am I going to get out of this? I don't know her that well. I don't want to embarrass her. I don't want to be rude. And I'm sitting here thinking, this thing, she's moving this thing like crazy, spelling words out and stuff. And I'm like, she is so full of it, dude. So finally, I got this idea and I said, okay, let me ask it a question. And my plan was I was going to ask it a question. And since she's obviously the one that's doing it, my plan was she's going to get the answer wrong. And I'm going to be like, nah, I guess it doesn't work. So we may as well quit. I was trying to find an easy way out. So I said, "Are you a spirit that knows me?" And it went to yes. I said, "All right, what's your name?" And it spelled out the name of my dead grandmother. My grandmother's name was Jeanette. Jeanette. Not an easy name for a random person that I had just met to guess. And my eyes got big as half dollars, and I went, I got my wish. I'm like, we got to stop this now. We got to stop this right now. And she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Dude, that just spelled that's my grandma's name." She said, "Oh, we're talking to your grandma?" And I said, "No, no, 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 absolutely not." First of all, my grandmother would be rolling over in her grave if she even knew that I was playing with a Ouija board. She was a real hardcore Christian, you know, and I was like, that is not my grandma. No. I was like, let's rip this thing up and throw it away. And this is where it starts getting crazy. My house went insane, like insane. Cabinet doors slamming, peanut butter jars flying off the counter, and I'm like, and like I said, I was a stone cold alcoholic at the time, so I'm just sitting around constantly drinking on vodka, just watching this, like, whoa, cool, man, whoa, really, and at one time I saw this black ball of a black ball. It looked like a cloud, and it shot down the hall, went through the living room, and shot through the kitchen and started banging on the wall. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm just so drunk. I'm not really reacting to it. I'm just like, whoa, that's cool, man. And couple days of this go by of me I'm just so drunk. And one night we were sitting at the kitchen table talking, and I don't really know how it got brought up, but suicide got brought up. And one of the last things that I remember was saying to myself, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I don't remember really doing it. I kind of remember going down into my cellar, kind of, sort of. My next conscious memory, I'm inside the wall down in my cellar. And the craziest thing about this is there's no thought process, you know? I'm not thinking, "Oh my God, how did I get here? What am I doing here? What is this? Where am I at?" I was just there. And in front of me, I could see what looked like, I guess you could call it a portal. And it kind of looked like plastic wrap, that plastic wrap that they hang over like buildings when they're doing construction. And it was hard to see through it, but I could kind of see that on the other side of this portal was my cellar, and I could tell that's what it was. But again, there was no thought. I wasn't thinking. There was no thoughts. I don't know how to explain it. I was just there. And I looked to the left of me, and there was about maybe 7 or 8 beings, that people, basically, you call them people. And we were all kind of suspended in nothingness, like darkness. Whoops. Like this darkness, this just nothing, all 360 degrees except for what was right in front of me was just dark nothingness. And I looked to the left of me, and they're all talking to me inside my head and talking to themselves at the same time. And it wasn't confusing. It was so bizarre. They were talking to me and carrying on conversations amongst themselves. And I could understand everything they were saying to me and saying to themselves. And I'm responding to these conversations all at the same time, like simultaneously. And it wasn't confusing. It wasn't weird. It wasn't, I don't know how to explain it. And I can't recap the entire conversation and everything they were talking about, like word for word. But basically, what I got out of it was we are pure negative energy. And you invited us in here. That's it. We're not here to hurt you. We're not here to kill you. We are just pure negative energy. The same energy that manifests anger, frustration, sadness, jealousy, envy. You know, we are that energy condensed, pure, uncut, condensed. And that's what we are. And that's the only way that I can think to explain it. And again, there was no thought. There was no thought process. I wasn't thinking, where am I at? Whoa, this is crazy. Whoa. And it wasn't even scary. Looking back and thinking back scares the hell out of me thinking back on it. But at the time, there was no emotion. There was no fear. There was no sadness. There was no trepidation. There was no anger. There was no nothing. I was just there. And I kind of sort of remember, like, I looked away from him and I looked through the little portal and I thought to myself, I wonder what's over there. And as soon as I thought that, pew, I shot straight through the portal, through my cellar, and through the other wall on the other side of the room. And I was in this meadow, like this big field. And this is where it's kind of weird. And this is where it starts getting hazy and hard to remember. I was seeing myself from multiple perspectives simultaneously. From a bird's eye view, from my personal eye view, looking at me from the left, looking at me from the right, looking at me from all the way around at the same time. And there was this other person there, this other being that I don't know who it was, but it felt like a dad. It like felt like it was my dad, but it wasn't my dad. My dad wasn't dead at the time, you know? That's what it felt like though. And basically, he was scolding me. Like, again, I'm paraphrasing, but you idiot. You idiot. What are you doing? You're not that stupid. You know better than that. The only, and this is where it gets really crazy and really trippy. The only way you're going to be able to get rid of that energy is by doing some sort of magic or spell work. Mind you, at the time, I know absolutely nothing about any. I didn't even believe in that, let alone did I know anything about it. And that was the last thing that I remember. And next thing I know, I'm waking up in my bed. And that girl was sitting at the foot of my bed, screaming and crying. Oh my God, you don't know what you just put me through. Why did you do that? How could you do that? What is wrong with you? And I'm like coming to, like, whoa, what is going on? What are you talking about? She said, you hung yourself, your face turned white, your tongue fell out of your mouth, you stopped breathing, and your heart stopped beating. And I had to lift you up and untie the belt and drop you on the ground and do CPR on you to get your heart started again. And I went, what? What are you talking about, dude? I was like, nuh-uh, I just had the craziest dream. I didn't believe her. And she said, go look in the mirror. Go look at your neck. And I went and looked in the mirror and I had this gash, this cut, and it felt like somebody punched me in the throat. And I went, whoa, no way. I really went over to the other side. And I was kind of disappointed. I was like, well, that sucked. That's not what I've been hearing all these people talk about. That's not what I was hoping for. That's not what I was wanting, you know? Later, come to find out, researching further, I have determined that I went to what most people refer to as the lower astral realm, basically, where what you would call ghosts hang out, where it's like just right barely on the other side of the veil, just barely. You know what I mean? And where earthbound souls who are lost, and because I was in such a low vibration, like I was at the lowest frequency state of my whole life. And I think that's just where I went because my vibration was just so low. I never moved past that. I have talked to a couple of other people who are very legit psychics who say, "You don't remember where you went after that?" And I said, "No, I woke up in my bed." They said, "No, you didn't wake up in your bed. That's not the only place you went to." I don't know. I still don't remember. Still have no idea. Now, about a week later, remember how I told you this being said the only way to clear that energy out is by doing some sort of spell work or magic or something like that. My brother, who I didn't know that well, I wasn't raised with my brother. I didn't meet my brother until I was 10 years old. And then even after I met him, I never saw him very much. Like I would see him like on Christmas. Pretty much that was it for the most part. So I didn't really know and it's my full blood brother. I was taken away from my parents, my sister and I, when I was 2. My grandparents raised me. My parents moved out of state and went and had my brother. And so he's my full blood brother. I just didn't know him. I wasn't raised with him. I don't know him. But I was living next door to him and my mother at the same time. So he was living with my mom and I moved into the house next door to them. So this was the first time that I had ever actually made my mom and my brother a close personal part of my life for the first time in my life. And this is when I was 26. So anyway, my brother comes over and I'm telling him what's been going on. I was like, man, this is going to sound nuts. I don't even believe in this stuff, but I played with this Ouija board and my house has been going insane, dude. Like I didn't think he was going to believe me. Cabinet doors slamming, peanut butter jars flying off the shelf, and the whole nine. And he goes, "Oh, okay. Well, you want me to cleanse the house for you?" And I went, "What do you talk about? What does that mean?" And he said, "Yeah, I do spell work." I was like, "What? You do spell work? What do you mean by that?" He goes, "Let's cleanse the house." So we went and we actually went and bought. We went to the grocery store, and bought like sage. Like I guess edible sage, white sage from the grocery store, dried it out, and he smudged the house with it. I didn't even know what smudging was. And we bought these tea light candles, and he did this thing where he made this big funny circle in the middle of the floor, and we burned this sage, and then we sat and did this little visualization exercise. I had no idea what was going on at the time. I'm like, what in the world is this? And whatever it was he did after that, it stopped. It stopped. It completely stopped. And I was like, whoa. If that was a dream, that was a coincidence. That being said, you're going to have to do some sort of magic or spell work to get that energy out of the house. And then my brother comes over and cleanses the house and does whatever it was he did. I still don't even really know exactly. It was his own thing, I guess. And then it stopped. And I was like, whoa, that's bizarre, dude. You know? And anyway, yeah, that's my near death experience. That's it. I don't like telling that story. I don't like it. If I heard somebody telling that story, I wouldn't believe it. So I'm sure there's probably a lot of you who probably don't believe me. And I totally understand. I totally understand. I wouldn't believe it either if I was you. But that's the truth. That's what happened. So anyway, I just wanted to go ahead and throw that on this channel. So while I'm interviewing people who have had paranormal experiences and whatnot, I was like, man, I gotta at least throw my near-death experience on the channel. So anyway, thanks y'all for tuning in. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Y'all have a good day.